It's okay to start with your early life. How would you describe yourself as a schoolboy?
I was very quiet and shy and introvert, and I knew where the school bullies operated, so I avoided those places.
Uh-huh. Did you have any hobbies when you were a kid?
Well, I'm sure the same as everybody does, stamp collecting.
What were your family like? Were they quite musical, or was it just like a normal suburban family?
My mum and dad were really into music. I mean, they were music fans, Had my mum was both my father and mum were Frank Sinatra fans.
All right.
That was probably the first music I ever heard really properly.
You learnt to play instruments at school, didn't you? Like the violin and so on. How to use them, but did you have any sort of deep interest in music, or was it just something to try?
Well, at school it was something just to try. I mean, it was usually to get out of something that you didn't want to do, So music, doing violin was an excuse really to avoid doing maths.
Right. And
but my musical interest really perked up when I started playing guitar at in the school guitar club.
Did you find it quite a difficult thing to do?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I mean, I've, as I say, I had a bit of a background in music, and obviously a huge fan of Top of the Pops, as everybody that I knew was. Not that I aspired to be on Top of the Pops particularly, but just an interest in music, really. Well, I had a couple of mates at in the guitar club, and we formed like a one gig band called Freeze Company.
Right.
And we entered the local talent contest. And we did a cover version of Streets of London. We all, me and my mate were playing guitar, and then we had this other girl that was singing, and that was really my first entering into music, I guess.
Right. And so obviously synth music was just starting to appear. When did you become aware of it? I mean, obviously people had been using electronics and music for a while before then, but it was always part of a bigger sound, wasn't it? Whereas synth was almost like a standalone thing, wasn't it?
Well, I guess my first exposure to electronic music was like Gary Newman.
Oh yeah.
I watched seeing them on Top of the Pops, And then shortly after, it would have been The Model by Kraftwerk. But at the time when those things came out, it wasn't something that I aspired to. It wasn't something that I thought that I could do particularly. I was more interested in bands like The Cure and stuff, and I was playing guitar and doing that kind of thing. It wasn't until much later that I really got interested in synthesizers.
And what was Basildon like at the time? I've heard it was quite a rough place.
Well, I don't know. I mean, when you live there, it's not rough, is it?
No, it's just normal. So,
only when you leave, you go, oh my God, what's that about?
You did get into synths eventually. What prompted that?
Well, actually, the thing that prompted me was OMD brought out a single called Electricity, which was their first single. And the B-side of that single was a track called Almost. And I heard that, and I thought, that's the first time I heard a record, and I thought, you know what, I can do that. I can do that. It was really simple, quite folky, really, in a way. It was very similar to the folk music that I'd been listening to in the past, but we've done with electronic music. So that's when I decided that I would maybe experiment with synthesizers and electronics.
How did Depeche Mode come about?
Me and Fletcher, because we both went to Boys Brigade, that's where we met.
All right, yeah.
And he was playing bass guitar, I was playing guitar and doing some terrible singing. And we used to rehearse in my bedroom with the drum machine. And then Martin Gore, who lived around the corner to me, he had a synthesizer, so he sort of joined the band, and then we realised that it was much easier for us much easier technically to play synthesizers than to play guitars. So we all switched to synthesizers.
Oh, right, okay.
So we decided that we felt that we just needed a front man, you know, and we kind of held an audition in one of the local schools, and Dave came along and sang "The Price of Love."
Right.
And then we thought, oh yeah, he's good. He'll be a good front man. So that's what happened. We did this event. Again, it was one of our local schools. You know, you could hire the hall out or something, and so we had this sort of crappy PA and invited all our friends along. And I mean, there was no bar or nothing. I mean, you know, we were all quite young, and yeah, these people came along, and that was our first performance in the school hall. Depeche Mode started playing gigs fairly regularly in local venues, and then we got our first London gig in the East End of London in a pub in Canning Town, and we were kind of the resident support band.
Oh, right, yeah.
And Fat Gadget came along, and he was doing a show, so we supported him. And then after the show, Daniel Miller, who runs Mute Records, came backstage or back to the toilet, and you know, offered us what he said basically. Would you like to make a single for Mute Records? And I said, yes, please.
So how did you make music with the band? Was it quite a democratic process, or did people have certain roles?
Well, we had certain roles. I mean, Fletcher, because he played bass synth, he did such a thing. Martin played all the complicated bits,
Right.
and I played the easy bits, and then Dave sang. And Dave operated the drum machine as well.
You've been asked this about a million times, but why did you leave Depeche Mode?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. I mean, just the right musical differences.
Yeah. You went on, obviously, to form Yazoo. Did you like that sort of setup where it's basically just yourself making the music and a singer?
I think that I am definitely a control freak.
Yeah.
I mean, not so much now, perhaps, you know, but back then I was, for sure, you know. And, I like the idea of, you know, with synthesizers, you kind of can do everything yourself, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you're relying on a drummer to turn up or a guitarist to be not hungover, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the idea of being able to create all the music myself, and then have somebody sing the song.
Do you think that the precision of the music, of the creation process in a synth environment appeals to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when Depeche Mode when we were performing live, then we were doing it completely live, and but then I kind of got really obsessed with timing. So then Daniel Miller introduced us to sequencers, and it was like a revolution, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think that, you know, the revolution in electronic music wasn't synthesizers so much, it was sequencers.
Yeah.
And you could actually program something that you could never in a million years play, you know.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, then I started listening to people like Kraftwerk, you know, which is kind of almost machine music, and just got really into it, you know.
Yeah. So how did you get to grips with the technology? Because, I mean, did you ever have a computer when you were a kid?
No, I didn't. No. I mean, no, there weren't. I mean, the nearest thing to a computer we had was the Language Lab.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Remember those?
I do, yeah, for French and so on.
Yeah, so you did your French and your German with tape recorders and that, and you used to repeat the phrases that came out of the tape recorder. That was my only connection with technology at the time. No, I mean, you know, Daniel Miller introduced us to lots of new technology. And, you know, like the sequencer, for instance, you know, the R2600 synthesizer. And that really got me going, you know. I just was really interested.
Yeah, did that have many presets on it, or was it, quite open?
Well, the early synthesizers didn't. I mean, they didn't have any presets. No. That was an attraction in using this kind of instrumentation because it was very unpredictable. And it's true now. I mean, I'm surrounded at the moment by old analog synthesizers that don't have presets. So every time I go in the studio, hopefully you can come up with something that's a little bit different.
Yeah, because I suppose you get a lot of happy accidents, don't you, where you just sort of create a sound and it's really brilliant.
Absolutely. The way I work is that in my mind, I'll come up with a melody idea or something, and then or a bass line or something. Then in my mind, it's going to sound like a trumpet, and then it just doesn't. It sounds like something else. You think, that's quite good. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. You just found this brilliant sound that was coming out of it.
It's been my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been my whole life. I'm not saying that I've never used a preset before, but the joy and the real interesting part of my work is coming out with something that's slightly different. Hopefully.
Yeah.
To my ears, anyway. People tell me that it all sounds the same. Like my mum used to tell that, but I think it sounds slightly different, and that's kind of how I wouldn't do it otherwise, to be honest. There's no point in going into the studio and then recording something, knowing exactly what you're going to come out with at the end. It's the unknown that keeps it interesting.
What do you think's been the biggest change in your own style over the years?
I think I have a better understanding of songs. A better understanding of how to write a song or make a sound that invokes some kind of emotion.
Yeah.
I wasn't really interested or didn't really understand that when I first started making music, but now I kind of do. And it's like when Andy and I sit down and write a song, it's like, you're messing about with ideas and then something clicks and you go, oh, that really, really works, because it's, and usually it's all about resolve. About, for me, it's about, you write a song or write a melody and it's all very nice and happy and everything, and then it has some kind of emotional twist in it. And that could be because of the sound that you're using or because of the lyric, but mostly because of the way that the chord structure changes and the melody changes. And it sort of rubs you up the wrong way.
Yeah.
And you get that for a while, and then you get this resolve, and it's almost physical. It's like a resolve melodically, and then for me, that's then you know that you have a fairly decent song, I think.
Yeah.
And a fairly song that people will listen to more than once.
Well, round about this time, a lot of bands were taking a sort of a darker route, weren't they? And that sort of sound turned into what we now call industrial music. Where it's sort of harder edged and synth noir and all this sort of thing. What do you think about that sort of music in general?
I'm a fan of most music.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like music that's atmospheric.
Yeah.
I like music that sounds like it's a soundtrack. Something. I guess because then it makes me, it kind of ignites my imagination. So, I like all kinds of stuff. It's not that's not necessarily the stuff that I would choose to write. Because I don't think I would be very good at it.
Yeah.
And it's also, you have to think also about, like, I think, about retaining people's interest in what you're doing. You know, you can't just... you can. I wouldn't choose to necessarily do a 3-minute track of droning music, just...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I like songs. I do like songs. I like melody. I like tunes. So that's what that's the direction that that's the direction I go into.
Yeah. Well, your music to me has always been quite happy music. It's been quite, cheerful music on the whole.
Yeah.
Oh,
that'll be my epitaph, that will.
Yes.
His tunes were cheerful. You won't say that for him,
Do you think that people rely on technology too much now? Do you think that people rely on the presets in the more modern software and synthesizers and sequencers?
I don't think it's about really what's there, what's available. It's about how they use it.
Yeah.
So if someone can come up with an imaginative way to use a sound that's been used a million times before, then that's fine. No, that's cool.
Do you think people are taking less risks, or do you think that's more the record companies?
Well, I think it's very easy to fall into that trap of going, oh, that sounds good because you've heard it before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's especially true with, I think, with things like loops and and the like. And I do the same. I mean, I fall into that trap, But then it's like you go, okay, all right, that loop is really cool, but let's make my own version of it. For instance, I mean, I often do that,
Yeah.
Or I come up with, or there's a preset or something on a synthesizer with a soft. I mean, the way I work is I use soft synthesizers to program and write, and then I will replace all those sounds with analog sounds.
Right.
And I'm not trying necessarily to replicate those sounds, but that gives me like a starting point for a sound, for instance. You go, oh, okay, let's make it sound kind of like this. And as I say, with the unpredictability of the synthesizers that I use, you end up usually with something that's quite different.
Do you think the older synthesizers had a better sound? It's a bit vague, isn't it? Like a warmer sound, would you say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and the answer is yes, I do, of course. Yes. I mean, I love sounds of analog synthesizers, but then I also love the sound of vinyl records.
Yeah.
And I was reading the other day that apparently with technology now you can't even. There's no way that you can possibly discern between something that's like you can't discern the frequencies that are there in a analog vinyl record and a well-recorded CD, apparently. So, but I still think that you can.
What do you think is going to be the next big evolution in electronic music?
The biggest revolution in the last this whole Euro rap thing that's been going on, and I like that. It's like these boutique little companies making modules that sound very distinctive, but the idea is that you can join them all together, which is really nice. It's like, I mean, if I look around my collection of synthesizers, I go, oh yeah, man, the ADSR on the Pro 1 is the best ADSR there is. I mean, probably the oscillators or the filter on the ARP 2600 is the warmest. But now you can combine those all. You can combine the sound of the filter of an ARP 26 with the envelope of a Pro 1. I think that's really exciting.
Is there anyone you'd like to have worked with that you never got the chance to?
I would have loved to have made an electronic record with Paul Simon.
All right, yeah.
I mean, he did this semi electronic record called Hearts and Bones, which didn't do very well. He started. I think he was using claviers and things like that, But I love him as a songwriter, and I think that would be really cool. The other person that I would really like to work with would be someone like Philip Glass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would have been interesting.
he kind of does sequence of music, except he does it for real. He does it like with real people.
Mm.
And I think it would be interesting to do like almost a cover version of his like hits, but with electronic music, with electronic sounds.
Right. Okay. Have you ever been tempted to? Because a lot of synth musicians from the 80s, that started in the 80s, they're doing sort of art installations with soundscapes and that sort of thing. Have you ever been interested in that at all?
Well, I've done a few bits with mine where.
Oh yeah.
And which has been interesting. It's been kind of cool.
Hmm.
But no, I mean, I think mostly I'm still waiting or still working on writing the perfect pop song.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going for.
Do you think you'll ever do that?
Well, apparently you never do. But